This video made possible by the ICC Stellar Surveyors and subscribers like you.
Hey everybody, welcome to Around the Verse. I'm Sandy Gardner and I am coming to you from Foundry 42 in Manchester, England.
And I'm Erin Roberts, and I'm filling in for Ben again this time. It's my second outing, so hopefully I live up to expectations.
And I am here in rainy Manchester, slightly cold.
This is quite good. This is quite good here this time
Yeah,
of year.
well, I'm wearing my thermals in your office, so I'm not sure what that says, and I'm drinking lots of tea.
Yeah, no, it gets it's a bit wet, but it's not too bad. We just had the warmest December since records began. So,
Really?
Or was it wettest? It's one of the two. I can't remember.
I think wettest is probably. And if you don't already know, Star Citizen Alpha 2.1 is currently available on the PTU, and our bug smashers are working hard to prepare it for a live release with the help of thousands of backers.
Yeah, no, it's going really well. We obviously we're trying to get it out just before Christmas for you guys, but there's one or two issues we want to fix up, and rather than just like put something out that we weren't happy with, we kept on PTU, so you could have the best of both worlds. People could play 2.0, which we felt was a lot more stable, and then 2.1 for people who want to see the new features. So that's kind of cool, and I think you'll be pleased with what we're going to go live with from 2.1. Some of you guys who are playing 2.1 will see some stuff, and we may add in a surprise in there as well for people later on next week.
This week we talked to CIG Austin's newest live ops technician, Jeff Pease.
And we're going to take a special look at our concept guys with Paul Jones, our art director. We're going to talk through some of the ways they do stuff and also maybe give you a few glimpses of some of the stuff they're working on.
But first, it's a new year. The development team had a good break over the holidays, and now we're ready to get back to work.
Yeah, 2016 is going to be a big year for us. Obviously, I know everyone's looking forward to seeing Squadron 42. We're working hard on that. And we're also going to be updating the persistent universe like mad. Now we've got 2.0 finished. It means that we can actually really iterate and get a lot of new content and a lot of new gameplay out to you guys. So that's the focus of the organization. And actually right now we have about 8 or 9 people from across the different studios here all working together on creating and finalizing the plan of just what we're going to be getting through this year and delivering to you guys.
We've got a great show this week, so let's take a look first at what is going on around the verse.
Hey everybody, welcome back to rainy LA.
It is really rainy.
Pouring on us. I don't know what happened.
El Nino.
The skies opened and here it is. So we've got some updates for you. I'm Eric Kyron Davis with
Darian Warlick.
All right, we've got many things to talk about. Why don't you kick it off?
So first of all, wishing everybody a happy new year. Hope 2016 is turning great for you guys. So our news this week, we've got, starting off with 2.1, stability being our primary concern. We're aware of many stability issues that are going on, and so our engineers are pretty much all hands on deck to get all of these stability issues hammered out. I mean, it is seriously all hands on deck for any stability issues that pop up. We've got Paul Reindell, Mark Abent, all of our other engineers, Alan, Ariel.
Yeah. And while it's generally, always important, stability is a very big part of obviously making games. Right now we're really on kind of a crusade to make Crusader better.
Yep. Wow.
That was for you, Darian.
No.
Okay.
Your
All right.
turn.
My turn?
Yeah.
We talk about the Reliant a lot, but we're getting really, really close. We're modeling damage right now. We're modeling the landing gear. Thank you. The landing gear is being worked on right now by Daniel Kaminsky, one of our artists over there, and alongside our lead, Elwin Bachier. They're doing a great job. That Reliant's looking really good. I know you guys got to see it a couple weeks ago, and it's come a long way from then, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, it's looking pretty cool.
Yeah.
And finally, our flight engineer, John Pritchett. So this is the guy who develops all of our flight systems, our IFCS flight controls. He's actually working on fine-tuning the EVA system based on the feedback and the demos that we've been showing you guys of how the EVA's been functioning. So we've been trying to do some fine-tuning, make it actually a lot more enjoyable, a lot more what's what I'm looking for? Visceral, I guess. Smooth? Yeah, sure.
Good feeling.
Yes.
And John, because he does IFCS and he does all the movements with the ships, it blends perfectly in right in with the EVA system. Right?
Yep.
They talk to each other. They're very similar, and that's been a big thing on his plate as we've gotten out of the IFCS updates.
And it just started pouring really hard.
It did just start pouring. And with that, so we don't get rained on, I think we're all set.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for checking in. See you next week. I'm Eric.
I'm Darian.
Bye.
Hey guys, Jake Ross here, Associate Producer of the Persistent Universe, and I'm here with you this week coming back from a little break, as we all are, and now we're raring to go, get things started up here in the new year. We're shooting this on Monday, so we've been back a grand total of, less than 8 hours, so not a lot to report on, but we are looking ahead, very much so. One thing I can tell you is that we are looking to do a pass on our Hurston landing zone layout. We are kind of going back, not to the drawing board, but Tony wanted to kind of get his hands in it and tweak it himself, so he's kind of taking it back and he's revamping it. These hero locations like ArcCorp, Hurston, Nix, they require a lot of attention. So one thing that we're doing is we're kind of reevaluating, the landing zones that we're going to be releasing here in the near term, because there's just so much work that goes into them. So we're trying to figure out, okay, we have these big old landing zones here. Let's kind of work on some littler landing zones and get a little more content out in a less amount of time. So Hurston is kind of undergoing some rework. Tony and Mark Skelton and Rob Reiniger are kind of going over that layout and make sure that everything's good to go there before we pass it off to the designers again for white boxing. So we're doing that. The ship animators have come up with a ship animation team wish list for 2016, things that they want to work on and improve. Because our ship animation team is here in Austin. Our ship artists are kind of spread out between LA, Austin, and the UK. So our designers for the ships are all over the place as well. So there's a lot of kind of disparity between what goes on in the various studios. So we're syncing that up. The ship animation team, we're wanting to work on things like landing sequence style guides. So a MISC ship will land a certain way, and an Anvil ship will land a certain way, and they want to kind of standardize that and work with the design team on that. They also want to do variable turret seat height design-driven solutions for variable turret seat heights. So some of the turrets in the various ships are supposedly reusable. We're across the various manufacturers, but the art isn't quite following some of the metrics we've put in place. So we're trying to communicate a little better on that and make sure that we're all following the same templates and stuff. So that's one thing they want to tackle. The last thing, there's several things on that list, but last thing I'll mention here is the 3 different speeds for enter and exit animations. So we shot combat speeds, relaxed speeds, and emergency speeds for getting in and out of cockpits for all the different ships. So we currently only have 1 speed in place. We want to get those other 2 speeds in place as well, because we know some of you guys are wanting to be able to get out of your seats more quickly. So we're wanting to incorporate that as well. Last thing I'll mention is that we have Chris Roberts himself over the break put together an engineering task list for 2016 for all the various disciplines across the company and engineering department. So we'll be working here with the networking and server team, Jason Ely heading that up, to take a look at that list and make sure that what we're being asked is achievable, and putting estimates on those tasks and scheduling those in. So it's a lot of scheduling, it's a lot of looking ahead, but it's all you can really do when you've only been back for 1 day. So next week we should have a bigger update for you guys, but that's kind of what we're working on this week. So thanks. That's it. See ya. Bye.
Ahoy there, shipmates, and welcome to the UK. It's been a busy start to 2016 over here. We've been busily trying to get the 2.1 build live to you guys, and also planning ahead for the next couple of releases. And we've also got quite a few guests over with us at the moment. We've got Chris Roberts here for a couple of weeks just to sync up with the design team and the engineers, and we've also got the writers over at the moment, so really drilling into Squadron 42 episode 1, and we've got even more guests coming next week with Hannes coming over to speak about the cinematic schedule, as well as getting all the artists together and really look at the plan ahead for this year. We've got Forrest coming over from LA to talk about characters, and lots and lots of meetings to start the new year with, and we'll be looking now to basically sort of solidify our plans and really start to drill into more of the requirements and getting all those tasks laid out and getting the resource assigned to them. So yeah, lots of busy planning at the moment, as well as work on the actual live release. So it's quite a shock to the system getting back after the long break over the holidays for a lot of people. So a lot of people are still sort of getting into gear and figuring out what it is that they're going to be doing since the break, and kind of just getting their teeth into lots of different things. So next week I'll be bringing someone else along with me, so you guys don't get too bored with just seeing me. But that's it for this week. Sorry, it's kind of brief, but yeah, we'll drill into more of the facts and the bits and bobs next week. Okay, see you in the verse.
Hey everyone, Brian Chambers from Frankfurt. Just got back from the holiday break. Most of the team's rolling in now and getting settled. Short time, but needed time to relax and hang out with friends and family. So not a tremendous amount to update on since we just got back. Some of the stuff we are working on though, engine teams already gained to town on pushing more on the procedural stuff you saw. They already have some new stuff done, which is pretty cool. You guys, not sure when you'll see it, but you definitely will. A lot of the team right now is focusing on roadmaps and schedules and plans for this coming year. I mean, it's a perfect opportune time with a new year. Let's look at the timelines. Let's look at the schedules. Let's look at the priorities. And kind of get all the stakeholders in place to dig through all that and see where we're at and if anything's changed and what we want to modify and so on. Cinematics team is still pushing on some stuff. I just saw some scenes the other day they were putting together. Got some new heads and faces in, and that's looking really good. Besides that, on the holiday break, it was nice. I actually had some time to dig through forums and Twitch and so on, and read a bunch of stuff from backers and from fans, which is rare that I have time to do that just because we're so busy in the office. In the process, what I found was my brother-in-law, actually, who's old school PC gamer, has actually been streaming Star Citizen on Twitch for I guess a while, and he's nuts doing it 5, 6, 8 hours a day. So I want to make a mention to him. His name is Stoutman_PR. I know if you go check him out, he's having fun playing the game just like the rest of you guys. So here's to 2016. Hope everyone had a good holiday and good new year, and we look forward to what we're going to put together this year and show you guys. Take care.
Danger. Rear shield 25%. Rear shield down. Flare ready. Chaff ready. Chaff dropped. Shields recharging. Begin scan. Contact. Missile locked. Missile dry. Head shield down. Shields recharging. Proximity alert. Head.
And as always, a big thank you to our studios from around the world.
Next up, Jared had a chance to sit down with Jeff Pease, who was recently promoted from QA to Live Ops Technician. Take it away, Jared.
Thanks, guys. On this week's ATV interview, I'm sitting down with Jeffrey Pease, QA Specialist. Jeffrey, how you doing?
Good to have you back out here. I'm doing good. Hungry, but that's normal because I'm a twig.
All right.
I am hungry all the time.
Would you like us to get you something?
No. It's a normal state of being for me. I'm accustomed to it.
All right, we'll film a bit afterwards. We'll just be eating. It'll be at the end of the episode. Now, Jeffrey, you're pretty vociferous on our website and on Reddit, but folks may know you as Bearded CIG. So if you've ever wanted to put a face to Bearded CIG, this is Bearded. QA specialist. We had Tyler Witkin on the show a couple weeks ago. Tell us what he did. Tell us about a day in the life of quality assurance.
It's going to end up being different for all of us. When I first got here, the game was about the size of what a console release game would be. We had a couple of maps, a couple of game modes, a couple of ships. I've tested console games in the past that were about the size of what we were testing when I first got hired. And I knew that also having experience testing on MMO games at SOE, I knew that we were going to need to either have a much bigger QA team or have us all specialize on different parts of the game, because ultimately it's just way too big for anyone to be an expert on everything. And you end up having better communication when you have that one dude that's responsible for stuff. I ended up being the first specialist because we had a producer walk into the QA area and be like, hey, we're going to be doing a new version of the lobby system. We need someone to test it. And I immediately went, I'll do it, because I knew that it would give me a chance to prove that the specialist system was useful. It would also allow me to interface with the server engineers closely, and then that would allow me to sort of further get into helping with the back-end stuff and being able to bug things in regards to things like that. And now I've transitioned into stuff that we can talk about later, because that's not related to your question. But a day in the life of what Tyler does. Tyler is our FPS specialist, because after I had proven that the specialist system ended up being useful, our QA lead and our QA manager were like, all right, I really like what you did with the lobby system. We should have specialists for everything. And I'm like, well, we don't have a big enough QA team to have specialists for everything, but we can be really general. So Tyler's the FPS specialist, because he likes playing FPS games. He has a good idea as to like what's supposed to go in the FPS stuff. I'm terrible at them. I have a friend that's really good at FPS games. There was this one game we had where I was literally pointing my sniper rifle where his head popped up, and he still killed me first.
Okay.
All I heard was him go, oh crap, and I died.
All right. So what are you a specialist for?
I am a combination of sort of the lead specialist, and while that's a bit of a misnomer, because I'm not considered QA leadership, I'm considered more of a mentor.
Okay.
In that I help provide information to people in the event that they're not sure what's going on. And I also sort of like crafted all of our documentation. And I'm also the specialist for the lobby system and a lot of our back-end systems. So if anything breaks with like the general instance manager, the game servers, things like that, if a server crashes, I'm the only person on the QA team that currently knows how to look at our server logs. I'm teaching someone in UK how to do that. I also use some of our analytics to find things like memory leaks.
Okay.
And generally am the only one that looks at our concurrency graphs to find major issues that are causing server crashes or disconnects, to try and help improve the stability of the game, and then try and convince the producers not to push something live so we can fix more things. And I usually lose that fight, but that's because we're in alpha.
It is a different beast, because we are supporting a live game during development.
Yeah.
So, you know, if this were a traditional release, yes, we would absolutely hold on to every little thing until it was perfect and
exactly.
put it out. But at this point, you know, it's we're a beast with many masters.
Yes.
Anyway, so we have to serve many aspects of development all at the same time, but with challenges that no other game, especially no other game of this size, would have.
Yeah. It's a whole lot of fun to try and troubleshoot things that break, because I'm a real big fan of just trying to gather ridiculous amounts of information and try and make sense of it all. It makes the job rewarding and just problem solving. When you figure out what the answer to that is, you're like, yes, I got it.
Now, we've introduced Witch Glitch a couple months ago. We get to show off some of our more humorous or interesting glitches, bugs, and whatnot. Somebody wanted me to ask you if there was something what was your favorite glitch or bug that had happened prior to the invention of Witch Glitch? Something that you wish we all could have seen that had happened at some point here in your tenure?
So the QA team, even before Witch Glitch started, we had a habit of just saving things that were hilarious in our hard drives. And just because we're like, man, this is awesome, we should save this because it's funny. I believe my favorite one, which was on like the first or second episode, just because I had saved it on my hard drive. I was like, this needs to go out there. It was, I had ran into a Vandal scythe, and its blade fell off and got embedded in the cockpit geometry of my Aurora. So I looked like I was running around with a Buster Sword from Final Fantasy trying to murder things. And then one of the UK testers took that from the bug that I wrote and then put the Final Fantasy combat music to the video and then shipped it back over to us. And they were like, here, watch this.
Okay.
It was probably one of my favorites.
All right. And what's one that drove you crazy? One that you would pushed you right to the edge, made you question whether you were in the right business?
Oh God. Every now and then we'll have issues that'll happen on the back end where just something will cause the stability to barf all over itself. And you just can't find steps for it. You're like, I know this happens. I can't figure out what I'm doing to get it to happen. And those end up being the most frustrating because a lot of the times, if the programmers can't figure out what's wrong with it, they'll send it back to you and asking for more information, and you're sitting there going, like we have some server crashes that are happening on live right now that nobody knows how to get them to happen. We just know that they happen because we can see them crashing. And I know what I can get the information from the back end in regards to like what the server logs look like and the call stacks, and we don't know what's actually causing them. It's so frustrating because I want to help make the game more stable for the players, and nobody knows what's causing them to happen.
But we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, don't leave them with no hope. There's no hope. Star Citizen will never be fixed.
There's no hope. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Right now we have more important things to work on.
Alpha 2.0.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. Which may or may not be out by the time you see this. We don't know. So where'd you come from before this?
I worked at Blizzard for 5 years.
Okay.
Before that, I was at SOE. And before that, I was at SCEA.
Okay.
SOE and SCEA, I was QA. Moved on to be a game master at Blizzard for 5 years. Similar to what I do in QA, I was really good at the game side of stuff for customer service there. And if you had something go wrong with in-game, I was the guy you wanted to talk to because I was one of the best at looking at the server logs there. And I moved on here because my dad got me my first Wing Commander game when I was like in middle school, and then got me Wing Commander 3 when I was in high school. And when I saw Star Citizen had an Austin location, I was like, I need to work there.
All right. Final question. What's this? What's going on here?
It grows too fast to be worth the time to shave.
That's it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, at least it's all one color. I have the multicolored thing.
I have like one white hair that's like somewhere in this area.
No, you don't color it. It's just all that dark?
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the color changes if I stay out in the sun too long. Except it gets darker, which is weird. I've done that with, like, I spent a day outside and someone was like, "Did you dye your hair?" And I'm like, "No." They're like, "It's really dark." That's kind of the opposite of how that's supposed to work, right?
That's it for the ATV interview, guys. Thanks for watching. Back to you guys.
So welcome back, good to see you guys again. It's me, Paul Jones, art director for Foundry 42, and here with me is Gary Sanchez again. We're going to do another little in-depth segment about some of the content that we've been working on over the past few months. Today we're going to cover Shubin. Obviously, those fans who've been around with us for a long time will be aware that the Shubin mining platform has been part of Squadron 42 probably since we first started. It's a 6-kilometre long base with huge lasers that mine asteroids that are tethered to this base. We've done. There's been quite a lot of concept done on this, on the exterior. The exterior was done by Andy Lay, interior by John McCoy and Jan Urschel. One of the problems that I have is that sometimes through availability I have to switch concept artists, the difficulty for me is basically that sometimes the artist style is slightly different, or it may be that I haven't given strong enough direction. That does happen sometimes. I hold up my hands. Most of the time, it's decent enough direction that the concept artist will understand what I'm driving for and what Chris wants, we arrive at something good. But with Shubin, we originally, for the interiors, we originally started off with 2 interiors. It was called a small room set and a large room set. And they did exactly what they said on the tin. One was for small rooms, one was for large rooms. So, like hangars, one was for like corridors and stuff. But we quickly found that we were suffering from sort of visual fatigue. There was a lot of repetition. It was orange was our sort of accent colour, but it was becoming too repetitive. Obviously we're striving to make a AAA experience. We're wanting that depth. We want it. You guys want it. So between us, me and Gary, Gary's been driving a lot of this. We've been working hard on taking, as Gary would say, the spirit of the John McCoy stuff and kind of advancing it. So it's not on the screen at the moment, but originally we started off with a corridor. We'll get to that in a bit, because corridors are I see them as like the backbone of any sort of interior space. From that, everything sort of branches off, and it makes it a lot easier for you to sort of figure out style guides, colours, all that good stuff. But like I said, we've suffered from visual fatigue. There wasn't enough variety going on. It was kind of cool. I mean, the corridor that we had and the segments we had were good, but after working on the Idris and the stuff that Nate and the team has done on that, we basically sort of started to head towards more the archetypes. So what is it again, Gary? The 4 archetypes: technical
and habitation, and
engineering. So those are the 3 that we've been working on just recently, and you'll see stuff today that possibly Chris won't have seen yet. It's not fully signed off. He knows we're going in this direction, but we've been really trying to sort of to push this as an environment set, because this won't only be used for Shubin. There'll be other mining places, or we may use this. We may reappropriate it and turn it into I don't know, like maybe some mobile mining base or something. Who knows? But basically we're trying to create the variety, create the modularity. It'll give the designers that flexibility to sort of give the fans as much variety as possible, basically. So in our journey, this is sort of basically how we've been splitting it up. And like I mentioned, we had orange everywhere. It was orange. So we basically, it's a simple thing. We've just been changing up the color palette. For engineering, we've basically switched to yellow. just to continue, you know, a lot of people associate yellow with engineering. You know, it's more like JCB. It's like Caterpillar. It's that. You know, it's that sort of industrial feel. So that's kind of our signature colour in one area. I mean, Gary, you've put this together. So
yeah, and also to show that the more industrial part of Shubin is more dark and more like an underground industrial engineering area. So we, as Paul said, we retook some code of modern industry with putting something more high-tech in it and more personal from the game. And we also differentiate also the two levels of Shubin with making some transition props and room to harmonize all the design of all Shubin, but we still have, it was a request from the gameplay. For the gameplay, it was to have two differentiate levels, so the challenge was to harmonize all the props, but we still having two atmosphere in the Shubin area, so the underground engineering and the technical and habitation area more and more high-tech. So this is the main spirit of...
So this basically shows, you know, your...
The tools and some
security assets, and then basically engineering area. Is, you know, basically the larger the amount of colour, that's your sort of base colour. That's your theory, right?
It's based on also on the lighting, because we will play also on two lightings that will define the atmosphere. More dark light for all the engineering area, and more neutral white light for the technical area.
Okay, so here these are two existing concepts, sort of worked on by Jan Urschel.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, it was Jan, wasn't it?
I think it's Jan.
Yeah.
And then this one is
and that's John McCoy's. So basically, you know, we're taking a lot more style cues. You know, this is quite industrial, but you know, we really liked what Jan had done with the large numbers and the big graphics down the side. So we're really just sort of taking more of that and bringing it inside, and also for the technical area, getting closer to John McCoy's original idea. Metals, slight orange accents, cool lighting, light greys, dash of, what have we got there, white. It's hard to see on the screen at this angle. And so that's pretty much the route we've been taking. So we'll show you a few more pieces. What have we got?
So we define each object and each props of the industrial engineering area like real industrial object, but with a touch that is defined by some modern materials to break with some too much old industrial code. So we keep some carbon fiber to define the pipes, to define some tools. So there is also all the graphics.
And also, just pop back, also in the line work as well, you know, one of the original sort of like ideas I guess it had with this set was there was always to be sort of a small amount of radius on the objects. It wasn't to be super harsh angles, 90 degrees or split, you know, harsh folds in metal or whatever. There was always going to be a slight radius, a softness. So Gary's kept that in mind.
So we research, we keep the industrial code of the more modern industry existing from our days, even for the graphic stuff. Like this is from coming from NASA, and we modify to see what kind of sign it's research about what kind of sign we can translate to the industry and engineering area to have an immersive feeling. So we define some structural element.
Yeah, because the Shubin corridors had always had this theory of it was essentially an exoskeleton cage. It was fully modular. and from that either interiors or exteriors were bolted onto this cage. But we were finding with the original stuff that it wasn't coming out real enough. Like it was still looking like a game. It was a well-rendered game. It looked good, but it needed more fidelity.
And we would like to put a little bit also further the technology of process and manufacturing metal. So we try to go on the next step after press metal. We wanted something more high-tech, but keeping the feeling of old mining industry.
Yeah, because Shubin is, you know, it's sort of a floating factory, but it is high tech. You know, that's a lot of high tech equipment that's being used on the exterior. The exterior is a little more high tech than we had the interior, so it's kind of just, again, what I'd call second round concept. Basically, you know, Gary's done an awesome job of harmonizing it, of, you know, bringing everything into line, making it feel coherent, and you know, you'll see as we go along that basically the artists, you know, it's not paint by numbers. You know, there's some creativity involved, but you know, hopefully we will have answered a lot of the questions that they may get stuck on.
So we begin to introduce some hydraulic jack systems that will be like paraseismic absorber. So for
kind of like a shock absorber, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's to show that even just to have a press metal, it's to go further, to say, okay, we have some structural high-tech equipment that will define and keep the spirit of mining industry, but going further with the modern technology that exist from our days or that are developed like innovation in our days for biggest building. So we try to redefine some props and make our own identity with some props, security barrier. Here we begin to see also, we work a lot with some mood board to see what is the new technology from our days, how we can translate it, how we can go a little bit further.
And this has all come about because of us following this you know, the archetype. So there would have already been a mood board originally, but this is sort of what we call second round mood board. You know, it's an advancement, and really just helps us figure out what our direction are, what's important, what are the key things when we're walking in this area.
So there is the texture, the UI, all the small elements that will make some rhythm and break a little bit the repetitive things into corridor. So we try to make some rhythm into all these parts and with some research through the mood board.
So what we have here is an engineering corridor. This is built by the artists here, and you can see that it's in a pretty good solid state. Floors, walls, ceilings, supports. But you know, it's at this stage where, you know, often, you know, we need to take it further. So, you know, again, we'll go to a second round pass of concept, and you know, Gary's been the master of this, of like sort of just taking it and really working up the detail. You know, it's a lot more important these days for us to define the materials. You know, in the past it used to be that I think, you know, like the artists had a lot more leeway in it, in a sense. You know, they would have a concept image and you would leave it up to the artists to build the materials and off they would go. Here, you know, we're trying to define it a lot more. You know, obviously we've got a lot of things to worry about, memory budgets and streaming and, you know, not duplicating textures and just being optimal. And this is all part of the process, you know, as defining materials. And, you know, providing a library for this set so the artist can choose from whatever it is. So for example, say 15 materials. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I know it's this brush metal, it's this polished plastic, it's this hexagonal, whatever it is. And it's all about streamlining the process. Basically, we obviously have a lot of work to do for Squadron and for Star Citizen, and anything we can do to cut down on iteration time is as good as possible. We've all got a lot of experience, but Star Citizen I think has tested everybody, and we are developing new techniques constantly as we go along. Same for the interiors. The ships have had, I would say the ships are ahead of environments in a way in terms of their development. Environments are definitely well on track now. We now just have to start building final art essentially, or getting to that point. But that being said, from this, we'll now flick over to something we did earlier. Not that one. No. Not that one. 1 second. This one. And so here, this is basically what we've been working on in terms of just, tightening up the feel, basically, really sort of pushing that high-tech, technical feel of Shubin. So you're almost like inside a Swiss watch. There's a lot of stuff that's been added in this image. I mean, Gary, feel free, just jump in and give us a little more info about the kind of things you've been working on in this image.
Yeah, we found some interesting with the 3D environment modelers and artists to make some texture more high-tech like that for the pipes. Also to have some small components around this kind of pipes that give some more high-tech feeling. All these kind of details around the door, and changing also the pattern into something more modern. We keep the industrial code of the industry, but we're trying to put it a little bit further with some high-tech feeling through the materials, through small components, and a work on lighting too, to have this underground spirit for Shubin engineering area.
So for the eagle-eyed people out there, you'll probably notice that this sort of rear section of this image, of this corridor, is a little bit pasted in. This is, what often happens is that Gary will, or the concept artist will produce an image, and it might not be quite what I'm after. So I will draw all over their work, or Photoshop some elements in that I'm more happy with. Of course, my time is quite limited, so it's generally done quite swiftly. But it's really, for me, it's about getting the direction across, basically, of what I want as fast as possible. As you all know, I'm not just working on interiors; it's ships, it's the full shebang. But here, again, it's just, this is essentially a toilet block. This will be part of developing the Shubin believability. You want toilet blocks, you want kitchens, you want vending machines, or depending on what the area is. I mean, chances are this is sort of coming out of some industrial area and coming into a break room. You've got certain highlights of the. Actually, that is an exit figure. It should be really a toilet figure, but and then we've also got some essentially Chinese text, I think it is there. But that just sort of represents a direction that we're sort of investigating in terms of either having English and some kind of iconography, or maybe another language, basically. So we've got to work with the writers a little more on that to just figure out how we get that dual layer. But again, it sort of lends itself to that. You're in a high tech. It's advanced. Multiple languages. And so these are the things we're kind of working with. Again, we're also sort of figuring out lighting, mood, materials.
The storytelling also through decals, to know how all the Shubin area has been constructed. So we know through the decals where is the part that has been conceived in the first part of the construction, and how it has been implemented few by few. So for having a more storytelling reinforcement.
So obviously we'll try our best in this session not to give away any spoilers. So we'll just be concentrating on sort of the theory behind the visuals that we've been creating. We have like a transit hub. This is not giving any of the story away, but it's an important room for many reasons really, because it's also helped define the architecture. It's also helping define the large room architecture. And so Gary has been working heavily on this, as you can tell. Kind of looks like the work of a madman, but when you zoom in, everything's got a good theories, which Gary can give you a bit more info about.
So the main thing is before going too much into artwork with atmospheric feeling and things like that, we are trying to give some immersive feeling to the room, like it has been manufactured for real into the game through some component and through a real manufacturer conception. So we were inspired with Paul about hydraulic system that are like shock absorber.
So we're kind of thinking of as if all the interior spaces essentially have a shock absorbing system. So say Shubin, and it's all theoretical, right? But it's adding to the fiction of the world. So say Shubin facility gets hit by a large asteroid. Every segment has its own internal shock absorption. So theoretically will produce damage. In reality, it makes for good visuals. Anything
it helps to make something looking interesting between some big industrial element with some high-tech texture on it. So we are keeping the code of industrial things, but with some conceptual engineering component. So this is what could be interesting in this kind of large room, to play with scale on different industrial component. And we try to define also before the artwork what will be the place of each manufactured component, if it's fitting with the gameplay, and all this kind of harmonization before going too far on art, and then we can begin to make the artwork.
And this is all based off a white box we've had from the design department. So we already know the sort of spacing, and everything works for AI and gameplay, etc. So it's really about sort of how do we make this huge space interesting visually, how do you make it striking, but also still keep that mechanical, high-tech feel.
So here it's a preview of the foyer, so where we can see some holo table, some scanner parts, some industrial hydraulic system for the transit hub area, with not saying too much on it, but the idea was to play with some industrial component, with some high-tech feeling in some small part of this engineering area.
Let's move on. What else have we got? So this is, depending on various areas that you're in, you'll go through various security terminals or scanners, and so again, this is just coming up with sort of various props. These aren't fully signed off, but we like the feel of them, we like the design of them, like the complexity of them. This is something that maybe you stand in the middle of, and it rotates around you and scans you, and you have a couple of these in a row. So it'll kind of be a bit, it's either like security or immigration. It's like it's got that kind of feel before you move on to another area.
Here it's more the feeling of technical and habitation area we wanted to give. So we refine some component of the engineering area, but translate with other color code and materials code.
So yeah, so this is very similar to what we've already seen. It's except instead of yellow, we've gone to white or light grey. But you know, now we're in the technical area, habitation area. You know, we're going to a more sort of clad interior, basically, a little less industrial, a little less hostile. But again, sort of still riffing off on this sort of exoskeleton cage, and then everything bolting onto it or into it. So Gary has basically worked on a whole series of what do you call them, variations. You know, obviously we don't just want a long corridor of the same panel. You know, we've basically been giving the artists, and you'll see here, a whole ton of variations that they can pick from, and you know, depending on maybe what the designers want to do in the level, we'll be able to sort of influence it with the pieces of art that we throw in.
So we've seen the technical habitation, so remembering of of the industrial feeling that we found on the engineering area. So we can see sometimes on some wall some pipes appearing for maybe some control or checking in. So we have also some data and some more computer feeling also to have something more like a real technical area that combine industrial but also more advanced feeling. We have also this kind of panels that are maybe helping for advertising in habitation area. So we have all these UI and graphic things that can contribute to give the feeling to be in a real habitation
we need to change
area.
this, don't we? Because this isn't ours, so this will be replaced to something.
Yes, it's inspired by something existing, but after the graphic artist will do also our own advertising fitting with the Star Citizen spirit. But as a first loop of the process, we use some graphic image that seduce us, then to modify it, but it's giving the feeling of it.
It'd be nice to have, that, you know, obviously you're going to have characters walking around, but we want to go further. You know, you want to, you know, in any good game environment, you want to have that believability. You want to have those multi-layer reads, you know, so it's not just the environment, it's effects, it's advertising, whatever it is. So, you know, we'll be able to, you know, it could be that we come up with, you know, some kind of branding that Shubin uses, or some kind of company that they always use for their advertising. So it could be a bit like, you know, work harder, or, you know, more rocks, more whatever it is, more money kind of thing. So, you know, we'll be able to inject an extra level of personality to the environment.
We have also created some research about breaking the rhythm of the repetition in corridor with creating some area that are totally different. So there is some panel like emergency or things like that could make a break into corridors.
Have you got that sheet where you've got about eight?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we'll
so
get
we
to that.
defined also some base for the wall panel, and making some research how we could work, what we can find graphically, and also what kind of element we can plug on this wall. And so you see a little bit some of the variation that we have shown to you. There is more, but we show an extract here.
Pardon? What was that?
We show an extract, I say, about...
Right, okay. So you can see here that it's essentially the same cross-section, but we're always looking to build on top of that, and, you know, ultimately we'll be able to build additional, you know, here essentially it still is you know, flat wall, not flat wall, but, you know, it's linear, but, you know, through just swapping out certain areas, we'll be able to push in or push out, or add framework, or you know, create more interest. But as an initial pass, the artist will build these, block them out, throw them in, we'll see how it feels. But again, they've got good direction, so we won't be losing time on them trying to figure out materials or what the style guide is. They'll know it's all pretty clear. So theoretically, iteration should be a lot faster. Then this is an idea for breaking. Obviously, this is similar to what we saw on a previous image, except they were yellow. With this huge shock absorber, and it's punching through this floor piece, and you're going from a single to a double lane, and just creating visual interest. It's not gameplay related. It's just it's for us. We want this to be an interesting place to walk around.
So we create also some boards like that to trying to define what will be the panel, the graphic things. Here you see a first loop, but it helps to creating the different panel and different wall variation. So we work like that, like for the manufacturer of spaceship, where we define the split line and things like that. We do the same for environment.
Yeah, we could go on forever. There's a lot of content for Shubin. I mean, we have got quite a bit more to develop on this, but this gives you a good insight, on the sort of work that Gary's been doing and where we've been pushing it. And we hope you guys like it. Thanks for watching.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed seeing some of the stuff we're up to in the UK studio.
The guys are just getting back to work, and we expect to hear a lot more from them next week.
Before we look ahead, though, we want to make sure that you guys know what we did in December, so please check out the monthly report.
We may have taken a few days off, but the community sure did an Erin, the envelope please, which Erin does not have. We are not organized with an envelope here, so the first MVP of 2016 goes to... He's making one as we go. No. The Nubifier 1337 for his video explaining the weapon and hardpoint system in the Alpha 2.0. Let's check out the video.
On the 14th of March 2015, there was a document titled Weapon Mount Updates. I'll link it in the description. After reading it a couple times, I started to understand what they were trying to do, and it makes a lot of sense. The document clearly outlined how the updated system would work and gave the set of rules for the designers to follow when creating the game from that point on.
That's actually one of many really, really cool videos that we've all been watching over the Christmas period. You guys do an absolutely fantastic job of just looking at what we do, checking stuff out, and then actually giving us a bunch of ideas right back when we see, all the sort of work you guys do as well with us.
Erin and I are back next week. Well, hopefully we can entice Erin back next week, but it wouldn't be right to leave you without an art sneak peek. Check it out. Be sure to tune in to Reverse the Verse at 11 a.m. tomorrow on Twitch, where the guys back in Los Angeles will discuss that sneak peek and all the events of last week.
And as always, thanks to subscribers for making this show happen. We'll see you next round. I got 1, 2, 3.
We'll see you next week on Around the Verse.
Right, ready? After 3, Happy New Year, but I just like arms in the air, that sort of stuff, so that's it, let's do it. Ready? So, on 3, 1, 2, 3, yay! Got it?
Yeah.